Yo, good evening, everybody. How you doing? This is your coach Renz, and tonight I want to talk to you guys about an interesting letter that I heard about on the Steve Harvey show this morning. It was brought to my attention that on the Steve Harvey show this morning, November 30th, 2017, that they spoke that the letter basically, and I'm gonna give you the nuts and bolts of it. Basically, the letter went as such, and I'm not sure if they covered this, but my opinion was asked about the letter, so I want to impart that to you guys, especially from a male perspective. So this is how it basically went. You have a couple who had gotten married, and 5 years into their marriage, most people, their friends and family, looked at them as the pinnacle marriage, the one that everybody should be emulating. Their marriage was great. They had great friendship, communication, all that stuff is good. They didn't have any kids. Before they got married, they didn't have any sexual issues within their marriage, but now they are having some sexual issues. Now, the only thing that has changed since they've become married is the fact that she goes to work, he goes to work. When she gets off work, she's a full-time student to get her master's degree. He goes to the gym. They have sex 4 to 6 times a week, and he complains about not being fulfilled within the marriage. So what's the problem? Now, I did hear some of what Miss Strawberry said. I can't say that right back to back. Sherry Strawberry, I think. And what Steve Harvey talked about as well, but I didn't hear most of it. So don't quote me on anything that they say, and it's probably inaccurate. But I'm just going to forego anything that they may have said and just tell you what my thought process is on this situation, because I get a lot of couples who want to talk to me about their relationship, about their marriage. And of course, you can always support my channel on my Patreon account if you want to get even more information, especially as my book, How to Find a Divine Soulmate, will be coming out shortly. But in respect to the letter, so let's look at it and break it down for a second. The first thing that we have to understand is that before they got married, everything was great. They had less things going on. She had less things going on. Evidently, she wasn't pursuing her master's degree, but had already achieved her bachelor's. They got married. They're in their 30s. They're 34 years old now, so they must have got married at 29 years old. She decided to pursue her master's. In pursuing that master's, of course, that's taking up a lot of her time. Oh, and she also mentioned that she works with juvenile delinquents, and that has become emotionally draining. I'm not sure if she was doing that before they got married, but that's what she does now. It's emotionally draining. So now, even though they have sex 4 to 6 times a week, to which most people would think that's amazing, that's great, that's awesome, which it is as far as quantity is concerned. Most people, I had to break this down one time for a couple. I had a couple, they said, the wife said that he should be happy we have sex once a week. I said, okay, let's break the numbers down. If you have sex once a week, that means that out of a year, you have sex 52 times a year. There are 365 days in a year. So out of 365 days in a year, you only have sex 52. It's a lot of days left empty. Now, the other aspect of it is even if you had it twice a week, which some people like twice a week, that's great, right? That means you're having it 104 days out of the year compared to 365 that you spend this most intimate time with each other. 104 out of 365 times a year. So the quantity of 4 to 6 is a great quantity, because that means that you're having sex more days out of the year than you are not having sex. So that is a good, healthy relationship. Some people thought that was kind of excessive. But we only think it's excessive because most people don't quantify the numbers. Most people don't realize that you're spending way more days in a marriage sexless than you are spending engaging in what's supposed to be the renewal of your marriage on a consistent basis, which is the most natural thing that we do as humans. So let's go ahead and just look at that number, and let's just go ahead and get that number out of the way. So the quantity is great. The quantity is great. So what's the problem? What's the issue? Why would he complain? Most guys who are probably listening to this are thinking that he's crazy to be complaining. The guys are saying, I wish I had me a woman who had sex with me 4 to 6 times a week. That'd be awesome, amazing. But you're not getting it. But why? So why would he complain after that? Is he like a sex fiend and got to have it 7, 8, 9, 10 times out of the week? No, that's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying. Because she said something else in her letter that clued me in a lot. She said that it feels like a chore, that she doesn't want it to, but she doesn't want it to feel like a chore, but it feels like a chore. So what's the solution? How do we fix this? How do we make this work? How do they make it work? How do you make it work in your relationship? It's actually quite simple. It's all about communication. It's all about communication and understanding. You see, the reason why a man can feel sexually or intimately unsatisfied, is because first we got to separate the difference between sex and intimacy. All intimacy doesn't involve sex. Both parties need to understand that all intimacy does not involve sex. You see, intimacy is stimulating not just the physical body, but the spiritual and the mental body. See, if you stimulate the mind, you stimulate the spirit, stimulate the emotions, the physical will follow. But most of the time, we don't stimulate the mental and the spiritual and the emotional. So when you're the man, let's first look at the man. When you're the man, if you want your woman to make love to you on a consistent basis, make love to you more often and more days out of the week than not, then you have to spend the time understanding what stimulates her mind, what stimulates her emotions, and what stimulates her spirit. Now, and it's not always sending her pictures or talking about, sexual things. Let's say your woman is into, I don't know, something crazy like rodeos. Send her pictures of rodeos. Send her things that deal with rodeos. Send her things that basically are within her interests, things that interest her. Talk to her about it. Send her stuff. If she likes music, send her links to different videos of her favorite types of music with good messages that she would enjoy, or something that would just give her a break at her desk or whatever she does, and so she can bop around for a few seconds and get a good feel. Send her, messages about, if she's into clothing, about different things, or maybe events that are coming up, or maybe some new information. Just send her things that entreat her mind to be inspired, to be electrified, so that the frequency and vibration of her brain increases. How about that? Send her things like that. Warm her up all day. See, most of the time we hear the term warm her up all day, and we tend to think that means I got to send her little romantic things and poetry and send her love songs and all that sort of things. But if you send things that are of her interest, that also warms her up because you're stimulating her mind. So we have to stimulate her mind on a consistent basis. Now, we can send things that are romantic to stimulate her emotions or show gratitude for what she has done for us or what she is doing for us, that stimulates her emotions towards you. And we can also stimulate her spirit by sending her words of affirmation, things that encourage her, things that makes her feel great, especially asking her the simple things. How's your day? Okay, you asked that this morning. How's your afternoon? How was lunch? Asking her questions about her day, stimulating her spirit, encouraging her to have a great day. Somebody's getting on her nerves. Listen to her. Listen. Let her have that moment. So stimulate her all day. And ladies, you need to understand that if you're having sex as a chore, most men don't need that kind of stimulation all day. Now, the stimulation that we do get mentally, before I go there, the stimulation we do get mentally is when you respond to what we send out. If we send you an emoji that has flowers bursting or whatever, and you don't say anything, you're drowning, you're killing our intimacy. All right? Because we look for the gratitude to come back. We look for the response. So we need that. We need that. Even though men won't admit it, we need that. It stimulates our emotions and it stimulates our mind. It's not about our ego. Many people will cast that aside to say that it is all ego, but it's truly not our ego. It's stimulating something beyond our ego. We just may not be able to verbalize it, or we are too afraid to actually admit it. But so responding to what we send, and sometimes initiating yourself, you sending us the song, you sending us the picture, you sending us whatever it is, you find or see some information of something we're interested in, sending that back to us, that also can stimulate our mind and our interest in you, so that we're both getting warmed up. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's warm each other up consistently, continuously. Now, the other thing you understand, intimacy to a man is knowing, okay, so men have a tendency, if you're doing it repeatedly, we will know when you're doing something out of a chore. We can tell your body language, your words, your tone, your vibration gives it away, your energy gives it away. And so he can say that I'm not sexually fulfilled because when we are having sex, I can tell that you're just doing it to get it over with, or you're just doing it so that we don't have an argument, but you're not into it. I know you're saying that I'm tired, and you expect me to be into it. Well, yeah, we do. When we married you, you was into it. We don't expect change. Men don't expect the woman to change. We expect it to stay the same way. And the woman should expect it to stay the same way. You expect the romantic gestures to stay the same way. You expect him to work and provide to stay the same way. So why should we not expect that aspect to stay the same way? Because to us, it communicates the same thing. I know you may not understand that. You may think it's very masculine and egocentric or male dominated or Neanderthal or whatever, that we think of it the same way, but it's the reality. That's just how we think about it. It's not for you to determine whether or not it's valid or not. It just is, right? It just is. And the moment you accept that it just is, then you'll be all right. You'll do better. Now, so we understand that, right? We get that. Now, the thing about it is, she's tired. He does need to understand her workload. He does need to understand what she goes through. He may need to take on more responsibilities in the house so that she feels less stress. He may need to figure out what de-stresses her. Maybe it's, aromatherapy. Maybe it's massages. Maybe it's him doing more things in the house. Since he's just going to the gym and evidently has more time, then maybe taking on more responsibilities around the house or doing things that takes away from her responsibility, or just setting up an environment that says that I appreciate what you're doing, I recognize what you're doing, and I know in the long run this is for the betterment of our family. Take the hit for a couple of years. Take the hit. But ladies, you got to recognize that even though he may take the hit, don't expect the hit to be taken even afterwards. Don't allow that to become the rut. That become the routine, I should say. Don't allow that to become the routine. So in that whole experience, I believe that if she understood what he sees as intimacy, I believe if he understood what warms her up throughout the day and how to help her deal with her stress levels, I believe that this couple can be successful in their marriage. But she needs to understand that the quantity does not necessarily mean great. It also, the quality makes a difference. And he needs to understand what she's doing and what she's going through, and them being able to communicate that together. And the biggest problem is lack of the ability to communicate to where the other person understands what you're saying. You have to realize that it is not the listener's responsibility to communicate well to what you are saying. It is the speaker's responsibility to communicate well so that the listener understands what you're saying. So just because you say it doesn't mean you're communicating. If they don't get it, then your communication is off, and it's your responsibility to change the way you're communicating. So I hope that this has been helpful to some of you guys. If you enjoyed this and you enjoy this channel, please continue to support the Patreon account. Just go over to patreon.com/Coach Renz, and I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to all of our communications and all our conversations, and I look forward to seeing you guys every Tuesday night on the Zen with Renz. This upcoming week, Tuesday, we will be talking about relationships. So have a great one. Enjoy yourself. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable.